Hey everyone and welcome to ReadIT. Today we have some entitled parents, where Karen doesn't want tigers eating meat. And the first story. Hi Reddit, just wanted to post a story about my mother. English is my first language but my grammar is atrocious. I'm also on mobile so forgive me for any formatting errors. So a little context: my mother, 50F, started a diet yesterday. She's on the slim fast diet, which I personally don't agree with. So yesterday I was working in my room. Yeah, uni work, so before I knew it was 1:30 in the afternoon and I was hungry. So I put myself a garlic bread in. Context over. Mother meat is I, the Frenchiest fry. You better not be having a pizza for lunch. Me but I am. I'm on a diet. You can't eat that in here. I stopped my boyfriend from eating his crisps in here earlier because it's not fair, meaning our living room. Me fine. I'll eat in my room. So I put my garlic bread and waited for the timer to go off, then ate my garlic bread in my room. She was salty for the rest of the day. Sorry it's not long but I do have some other short stories involving my mother, if you want them. Edit 1, holy cow this blew up, thank you for everyone for the upvotes and the awards. They mean a lot. I will post more stories about my mother but another time, smiley face. Next story is, won't you do something about this tiger? So, I saw some of the posts about entitled parents doing stupid things at zoos and aquariums and I remembered this story. Trigger warning, tiny gore. It's a little more lighthearted than some stories though. This happened at London Zoo. A little background. The real star of this story is JJ, a beautiful male Sumatran tiger. He now lives in a zoo in Denmark as he's part of an important breeding program. His mate at London Zoo was Melody, who you may have heard was sadly killed by another tiger when she was moved from London Zoo. JJ and Melody had recently had a second litter of cubs. Now the first litter had tragically died when they all got in the enclosure pool and drowned, so when Melody became pregnant again, it was decided that they would be separated and Melody and the kids would be placed in a baby-proofed enclosure next to JJ's. Bless him, he knew she was behind the fence and walk along it chuffing at her, he just wanted his lady. Anyway, that wasn't entirely relevant but I wanted to give you guys a little background on JJ. My friends and I had already been to see him earlier in the day and we had been, frankly, captivated by his beauty. As the day was drawing to a close and we were approaching closing time, we plotted a route out of the zoo that would take us past the tiger enclosure again, because one of my friends is a huge tiger lover, and TBH we'd all kind of fallen for JJ's charm. So we come back to the tiger exhibit, with every intention of lingering but we find a small group of people, including a zoo employee, and a slight air of excitement maybe. JJ had something in his mouth. He walked into the sheltered part of his enclosure, lay down and began to chew, looking incredibly pleased with himself. It's really impressive he managed to catch it, I heard someone say. And then we realized it was a small bird. Probably a sparrow. Yeah, that is impressive actually. Given the size of him and the size of it. As JJ chewed, a little roll of something pink and string-like tumbled out of his magnificent jaws. The little tangle of bird intestines dropped onto his massive paw. He continued chewing happily. A small girl was watching and turned to her mother. "Mummy, why is the tiger eating worms?" The mother looked flabbergasted. How dare this apex predator be predating and eating in front of her child? She turned to the zoo employee and said, "Aren't you going to do something about that?" The employee had a look of shock and bewilderment as well as an awkward, confused smile. I like to imagine the thoughts that went through his head as he processed what she said. After a pause he asked, "You mean, take it away from him?" "Yes." After establishing what she meant, and that, no, she wasn't joking, the employee simply replied with, He's a tiger." I think she might have been angry by this response if it wasn't for the other people gathered, my friends and I included, all laughing at this. I think maybe our laughter might have sort of embarrassed the entitled mum into realizing just how stupid her demand was. The employee seemed to relax and elaborated. "Look, anything that goes into that enclosure is, simply put, fair game. Including the birds. And including me. He can keep it." Not much else happened after this, so I think the silly entitled mother just took her child away. But the rest of us spent a few more minutes enjoying the sight of JJ munching on his gory little prize. P.S. It was some years ago this happened, so this wasn't word for word, but close to memory. Also, London Zoo is officially known as the Zoological Society of London, or ZSL, but it's known colloquially as London Zoo worldwide, so I thought I'd stick with this name. PPS, I can't guarantee tiger tax, but I actually think I have a photo of JJ and his snack worms on his paw someone, so I'll have a dig for it. Next story is, Mother beats me when I didn't do anything. I was raised in a community where beating/spanking your children as a punishment was the norm. The insanity of the story isn't about the spanking but how it was handled. I was a fairly low-maintenance child, so I only earned myself a beating a handful of times. For this story, my sister, me, and my brother were in trouble for whatever. We were all in elementary school from what I remember, so all under 12. Let's say 11, sister, 8, me, and 6, brother. My older sister got yelled at because she was the oldest and in charge, but my brother and I were under threat of a beating for lying. Thing is, we weren't lying. To sum it up, something of my brother's was irreparably damaged. He and I had both touched it at some point, but both claimed not to have damaged it. Regardless, an infraction had occurred and none of us, mother and siblings, could figure out how it occurred. Thus, someone was lying and my mother determined it was my brother and I. Someone did it and it was one of you two. We don't know. It wasn't us. Don't lie to me. Just admit it. If you don't, I'll beat you with this jump rope. I'd been beaten with a belt, but a jump rope? I couldn't fathom that would feel too good. And I knew she was capable of doing it. If it could swing with force, it was a makeshift belt. So after a few more back and forth of the same conversation, I had mentally decided that a jump rope would hurt more than a belt. I remember throwing my hands in the air, literally. I was a dramatic child, and just telling my mother to beat me. It wasn't the first or last time, as I'd prefer to be hit for a little while over yelled at over a long period of time. You don't believe me? We'll say I did it, you can beat me, and we'll move on. My mother agreed that this was the only way forward, brought the jump rope, and did in fact give me a beating. I cried, as usual, and pouted. She beat my brother too, as punishments were usually done together. I stayed in a corner for a while, and when she asked me why I was so upset, I snapped at her. Because you beat me with jump rope for something I didn't do. Oh please, I used the belt. You came clean. I only let you think it was the jump rope. And if you didn't do it, then you shouldn't have admitted to it. You can't just do that. You're my kids. So yes, I can. I was angry for a long time after that. We never found out who really caused that infraction on that day. But I learned that your parents aren't always right. Next story is, Karen goes crazy at me and my dad in store. This is my second time ever posting on here, so if it's bad I'm sorry. And thanks for reading, smiley face. So me, 16M, and my dad go to an English famous blue-colored store where every little helps, and we are just going and getting some things that we need for food. So in this store there is no one-way system, but you have to wear masks. And we are walking and miss the aisle that we need, so my dad and I walk backwards about a foot and turn down that aisle. This middle-aged woman with the typical Karen haircut with no mask starts talking to us. Karen, K, can't believe these stupid people not following the one-way system. Dad, D, lady, there isn't even a one-way system to be following. And then she leaves and we go down the salsa aisle and she comes back up the other way with a manager and security. K, this is them, they are the ones not following coronavirus rules. Manager, ma'am. The only rules at the moment are wear a mask and sanitize your hands when you come in, and you're the only one not following these rules. K, but this arrogant asshole swore at me. M, looking at us. Did you swear at this lady? D, still looking for salsa? No, she just started. K, interrupting. Fucking lying cunt. She then proceeds to pick up a glass jar and throw it at us, almost hitting the manager and us, and it smashes on the ground. M, calmly to the security guard. Get her out of the store. K, shouting. STFUD should be taken out of the store for harassing me. We continue shopping and get the salsa and Doritos we went in for, and we can still hear her screaming on her way out. And to top it all off, when we got all the stuff in our car, we drove past her getting into her car, and I hustled, smiled and waved as she was screaming down the phone, I presume to her poor husband. TLDR, Karen gets angry for her breaking corona rules and throws salsa at me and gets kicked out. And the last short story, entitled Mom Yells at Me for Turning Around. Please remember to throw a like and a sub for your boy here for more contest. So this happened maybe a few years ago. I think I was 9. Me and a bunch of my neighborhood friends were in Destin, Florida for spring break. We went to this really good seafood place called Pompano Joe's. I highly recommend it. We sat down, and we had gotten our drinks. This family was behind us, and they had a boy named Harper. One of my friends was also named Harper, so when this mom says his name, we all turn around because we think she is talking about our Harper. She then rudely snaps, "Yeah, Harper, that's his name. You got a problem with that?" We then all turned around a little shaken up, but nothing too serious. Then a few minutes later, Harper spills his drink, which obviously makes a loud sound. I turn around, and this bitch shouts, "What are you looking at? Don't look at me." So instead of helping her son clean up, I never met her son, but he seems okay, she yells at me specifically for turning around. After that family was herded out of the restaurant, we all got free desserts from the staff. I feel sorry for the boy Harper because he was deprived of a great meal because of his knucklehead of a mom. TLDR entitled mom snaps at us not once, but twice for turning around.